Our sponsor for today's podcast is Lynn Junk Removal. They are a locally owned business in Northwest Ohio with competitive prices and friendly service. They currently serve Northwest Ohio and Northeast Indiana. Some services they do are demolition, moving, and junk removal. You can call or text at 419-230-8418 for an estimate or any questions. We'd like to thank Lynn Junk Removal for being a sponsor. Hello and welcome back to the Flagrant Foul Fridays podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and with me today is Christian, the other host.
Hello, hello.
Today, our special segment is a word association game. Christian, you want to explain it a little bit?
Yeah, so you've probably seen this on social media. What we do is we take a word and we give it to our opponent, and then that word connects to the next word, and that word connects to the next word, so on and so on. So, for example, the first word could be basketball, and the next word could be player because basketball player is a thing. And then player could connect to player autograph, um, and so on. So we have 6 blanks after our initial word, and our only rule was that it had to be sports themed. Now, there is one catch. If you don't know the word at any time, you can ask for a letter, and then your opponent has to give you the letter. And then if you still don't know it, you can ask for the next letter and so forth. However, that uses your turn. So, whoever gets to the final word first wins. All right, Nick, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so we'll start with you. Your first word is flag.
My first guess is going to be football.
That is correct.
And then are we doing it to where if you get it right, you guess again?
No, let's go to the next person.
All right.
Because otherwise, I think you have an advantage for going first.
All right. Your first word is Miles.
I'm between Miles Garrett and Miles Turner. I think Garrett is more likely to be on your mind. I'm going to go with Garrett.
Miles Garrett, it is.
All right,
Uh,
so
this
we're
could be
back
a
to football.
this could be a number of things, so I'm going to ask for a letter.
All right, your letter is C. All right, Garrett. I don't think I know anyone that first name starts with Garrett, so I'm gonna ask for a letter.
First letter is W.
Okay.
All right, football C. I'm gonna go with another letter.
All
The
right, your
C
second
really threw
letter
me.
is O. Garrett Wilson.
It is Wilson.
That W helped. Wow.
Ah, football CO. I'm gonna go another letter because I don't think it's what I'm thinking it is.
Your next letter is A.
Oh my gosh, I know what it is. I don't know how I didn't think of that.
I think Wilson is a basketball company, so but I kind of want to guess a letter. I have kind of room. I'll ask for a letter. I'll play it safe.
You're gonna ask for a letter?
Yep. Will F. Oh. Okay. Sure.
I'm gonna go flag football football coach.
That is correct. Okay. I don't know. Wilson F? Wilson F.
Now you kind of make this a little tricky because you could go multiple routes with your letters or with your words. Because football could have been anything. You could go with a name here. You could go with a specific.
I thought mine's pretty easy, but Wilson F. I'm gonna ask for another letter. It could be football, I guess. Okay. It's an O.
What is? Give me a letter.
L.
L. Coach L.
Wilson football.
It is Wilson football.
Typically I think of them as a basketball company, so that was a tricky move there.
Um, I'm kind of losing, but I'll take another letter. Coach L.
Your letter is A.
L.A. Coach L.A. Who is that?
Um, Football, like you said, can kind of go to a lot of routes, so give me a letter.
S.
Hmm. Okay.
Coach L.A. Who the heck is Coach LA? I feel like I should know this. Should I know this?
You know this person, but it's kind of tricky.
I want to go another letter.
R.
Who? What the heck?
I guess it could be a screen, it could be a school. I don't know. Give me a letter. ST. Stand, maybe? I don't know.
Give me another letter.
R.
Coach Larry.
Football. Give me another letter. I think it's stand, but I don't know. Oh, it is an A.
It's
Okay.
an A, STA. I'm not going to go Larry because I feel like it's not Larry.
Okay.
I don't know a Coach Larry, so give me a letter.
Y.
Oh, it was Larry. Oh my God. Who's Coach Larry?
We'll find out. Football stand. No, stadium.
Should I allow it?
I changed it before you ever wrote anything.
It is football stadium. Is it Larry O'Brien?
Don't you technically have to guess the last one because you never finished it?
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's just a word.
So you just get it?
I
What
think
if it was
so.
2 words? Okay, now I'll give it to you. So you're guessing O'Brien, you don't want a letter?
Yeah, I'll do O'Brien.
That is wrong.
Oh gosh, who is Larry?
Stadium something.
Oh, I
I'm
think I know who
thinking
Larry is.
thinking Stadium Pulse or something. Let me get a letter.
Stadium C.
E. Okay.
I'm gonna guess Larry Fitzgerald.
That is incorrect. I almost picked him.
What? Who is Larry?
Give me a letter. CA.
Stadium CA. Give me a letter.
B.
Larry B. Oh, I know who it is now.
Does the coach make more sense now?
Yeah.
Stadium CA. Give me a letter. Cap. Is that the full thing?
No.
Okay, I was like, is it a hat?
Stadium CAP. I'm gonna guess Larry Bird.
That is correct. It could be. Is it capacity?
It's capacity.
Dang, that's a tricky one.
Give me a letter.
Your letter is M. Capacity? I can't think of a single word that could possibly go after that. Give me a letter.
C.
What?
Is it Birdman?
It is Birdman. Uh-oh, he's caught up to me almost. Capacity. Count.
It is not count.
Oh!
Give me a letter.
I should have asked for a letter because I figured you wouldn't get it. A C.
Man C.
You know, when you say it like that, give me a letter. I really hope you don't know what mine was. R? What?
Give me a letter. I think I know.
The way you said C, it sounded like Man City. I thought that's what you
Man
maybe
C.
thought it was. Like the soccer team. Okay, I have to get this then. I don't think I can afford to let you guess. Capacity
Right.
capacity crew.
It is not crew.
Gosh, I don't know what the heck this
Is
is.
it Man Cave?
It is Man Cave.
Let's go. Flag
Gosh.
football coach, Coach Larry, Larry Bird, Birdman, Man Cave.
You like it?
Yeah. You get redemption since I went first.
I really have no clue what could go after capacity. Cram?
It's not cram.
What is it?
Capacity crowd.
Okay. That's a bit of a stretch.
A stretch.
I've
You go to
never
the
heard
Super Bowl, that's a capacity crowd.
people don't say that. No one says capacity
What do
crowd.
you mean? When I was thinking of stadium, I was like, what could I do for stadium? Oh, they have a max capacity. And what's a max capacity? A capacity crowd.
Oh, I just googled it. It is a word, but I've never heard of it. or like at least used in any context. I thought count was better personally.
I could have did audience. It might have been a little better, but nobody says that.
Well, fair enough. You won. All right, now we're going to move on to our news. For college football, we have quite a bit of news actually. So first of all, college football bracket has updated. Oregon is playing Indiana and Ole Miss is playing Miami, Florida. Um, I thought we should probably talk about the Ohio State game, but maybe it's not even worth talking about that much, to be honest. We can narrow it down to a couple things. Our offensive line was terrible. Our kicker is still terrible. Um, Ryan Day is play calling. We have the whole situation with um, like losing coaches and stuff, so shifting around coaching responsibilities. We had 25 days without playing football. I mean, I don't want to use that as an excuse, but we're gonna do it later. It might actually be an issue.
We need to sign Cam Little from the Jaguars. He can make 60-yard field goals, and he can make field goals consistently.
Not exactly sure that that's allowed, but sure. Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing we need right now is a better offensive line.
I think that should be their main focus in the portal, as well as replacing the defensive players they're losing to the portal and to the draft.
Yeah, they're losing quite a lot of people to the draft and the portal, unfortunately.
Speaking of the portal, we got 4,500 Division One players that have entered the portal, which is roughly a third of all D1 players. The numbers are saying that 30 to 40% will not find a new team.
Do you think they know the risk going into this?
I don't think that they're necessarily thinking about that. They're probably thinking about wanting to get playing time on a different team.
And I imagine the 30 to 40% is probably like bench players or something. But still, it really shows how college football has changed. But to be honest, I don't have stats to compare this to because players used to be able to switch schools, right? It just wasn't
Yeah,
called the transfer portal.
I'm not sure what it was called.
So I don't know. For all we know, this is average. Probably not, though. One thing I'd like to talk about is some interesting statistics about the college football playoffs this year. Teams that start mostly transfers are tending to do better in the playoffs this year. For example, Georgia starts 90% of their players who were recruited and only 10% of transfer students. Ohio State is 72% recruits and 28% transfers. And both of those teams are out of the playoffs. Now we go down to teams like Ole Miss and Indiana, and they are starting 33 to 34% of recruits and 65 to 66% of transfer students. This seems to point to the fact that taking advantage of the transfer portal is clearly advantageous, at least to some extent. Now, I will admit there are a few outliers. In fact, the only remaining college football team who had over 50% of starting recruited players is Oregon. However, they only start 57%, so they still have 42.6% of their players from transfer portal starting for them. Do you have any thoughts about this, Nick?
I mean, it goes to show that, I mean, nothing against Indiana or Ole Miss, but they're getting players from the portal. That doesn't really show that they can develop new players. Whereas Ohio State and Georgia, they're above 70%, and they develop their players there, and they use very seldom transfer players.
Right. One question I do have, though, is if there's a correlation between a school having a coach that's new to the program, within the last 3 years or so, and then having transfer students. Because when I think about this, I believe Indiana and Ole Miss both had a fairly recent coaching change, correct?
Ole Miss wasn't. Well, it was in November, but there was no new players yet. But Indiana was Kurt Signetti.
What about before that? Did Ole Miss have a new coach fairly recent?
No, Lane Kiffin was the coach for like 5 or 6 years, I believe.
Okay. So I guess it doesn't always apply, but I would think that when you get a new coach, you probably will get a lot of transfers, and then the recruiting players will kind of come later. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely something to keep an eye out for. It's unlikely that the committee is going to do anything to really drastically affect the transfer portal, it would seem, but I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to it. Nonetheless, this was an interesting statistic to point out, and if you weren't aware already, now you are.
Speaking of the playoffs, every coach remaining in the college football playoffs is a former Nick Saban assistant at Alabama. So it really shows that Nick Saban had an elite coaching staff and even potentially, I don't know if he trained them or mentored them, but Nick Saban's legacy still lives on.
And even some of the teams that are out of the playoffs had assistant coaches to him, like Georgia, right?
Yeah,
I think it was Kirby.
yeah. Kirby, smart.
Yeah, could have said it better myself. On a brighter side, the quarterfinal ratings went up 14% in viewership over the last season, led by the Indiana-Alabama game, which overall viewership went up 3%. Hopefully it remains that way and continues.
I'm I'm noticing a trend here that a lot of the sports are going up in viewership this year.
Yeah, we've talked about this three times now, I believe, in three different, categories. Thanksgiving, I think it was Christmas, and now college football. Um, maybe this only applies to football though. Oh no, because some of our stats was the NBA, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Christmas games for the NBA.
Hmm. Well, I think that's probably a good thing, but I do wonder why. Could
Yeah, I
it be
wonder if there's
something
some kind of
like,
correlation.
I hope it's not something negative, like because of the increase in sports betting, people are watching the games to hit their bets.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
they did add more to college sports betting
Yeah,
recently.
they have. And even esports, they're starting to allow sports betting. It's really everywhere.
It's unfortunate, but I don't think it's ever going to go away.
Makes too much money. Moving on. Indiana can become the first major college football team to finish the season 16-0 since Yale in 1894.
That was a long time ago.
But I think that has to do with how many games are played, right?
Uh,
Because LSU 2019 was undefeated, right?
yeah, LSU was undefeated, but they had a different playoff system then. Um, they went 15-0. Michigan went 15-0 a couple years ago in the old playoff system. And I did look up Yale's schedule that year. There was only 27 teams in college football, and most of them were like high school teams that they played.
But for some reason they had a longer season with no playoffs.
They won the national championship that year, but I don't know how their playoff system worked.
I imagine it's probably the best team just automatically won. That's my guess.
Miami is currently one win away from playing a national championship game in their home stadium. This could be the first team in FBS history to do so, with Georgia Southern and Marshall doing it, but as FCS schools.
Yeah, you have to kind of wonder how much of an advantage that could end up being for them. I saw a lot of people comparing them to Ohio State last year, where they didn't get the bye week, but they're coming in and rolling every team. Really makes you wonder if having a bye week is even helpful. Speaking of Ohio State, they didn't score any points in the first half for the first time since 2016. And I'll tell you what, they looked really rusty coming out of that game. It felt like they hadn't played for 25 days. Because the second half, they played pretty decent, I thought.
They played better, but the first half really screwed them.
They played well enough that if they would have played like that in the first half, it would have been much closer.
By the way, that 2016 game was that Clemson game where they lost 31 to nothing.
Also on New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah, that was also on New Year's Eve.
We have a bad record on New Year's.
0-3.
Also, fun fact about that game against Miami, the first accepted penalty was at 7 minutes 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter. There was, I think, one other penalty before that, maybe in the late third, but that was not accepted, which is kind of crazy.
Moving on to some more college football playoff news. Oregon defeated Texas Tech 23-0, and this is the first college football playoff shutout since 2016. Once again, the Ohio State gave 31-0 against Clemson.
Ole Miss upset Georgia, and fun fact, if you remember, their head coach left in November. So this is really a team of guys that have been going through adversity. Everyone thought they were gonna bomb out in the playoffs, and yet they're really trying their best out there and winning.
Yeah, I saw LSU's going to pay Lane Kiffin like $500,000 because they made it to the semifinals.
And fun fact, Ole Miss kicker Lucas Carnerio made the second and third longest field goals in college football playoff history in the same game. He hit a 55 and a 56-yard field goal. That kind of just shows what that team is like, where, like I said, they're facing adversity, but everyone's doing their part.
Yeah, he looks like he'd like to transfer to Ohio State.
Are you being serious?
No, I wish. We need a kicker. If anybody knows of a kicker that is eligible to play in college, I know they actually are looking into one that has made a 50-plus yard field goal in like 17 for 19.
I never tried to practice, but with the soccer background I had, I always thought I might have a chance at being a decent football kicker. Maybe I could sign up.
You could be a walk-on kicker.
Indiana hands Alabama its largest loss since 1998 with a 38-3 Rose Bowl game. I watched some of that game and it was pretty convincing that Indiana is the real deal.
With that being said, who do you think is going to win the playoff overall? Or who do you hope wins the playoff?
Honestly, I wouldn't mind Indiana winning. They have had really bad success in the past. Um, and it's good for the Big Ten. What about you?
I was kind of hoping that maybe Oregon would finally get their redemption from last year
That's fair.
after making the playoffs 13-0 and then losing to Ohio State in the second round.
I did learn though that Indiana has the worst college football record historically of any team. So this has been a long time in the workings. I mean, obviously that's partially because they're one of the older schools, but still, having the most losses of any team is crazy.
Moving away from the football playoffs and moving into some bowl game, Wake Forest Cordell Bartley takes a kickoff return for a 100-yard touchdown in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I watched this a couple times, and this guy's got some legs. I don't know if he's a freshman, sophomore, junior, whatever, but he's definitely a really good kickoff returner. Maybe even punt returner. I didn't see any punt returns.
Who did they play that game?
I don't think they played anybody seriously good. They
Did they
played,
end up winning?
yeah, they ended up winning. Um, Let me see. They played Mississippi State. So not a horrible team, but also not a top program. I know Mississippi State's got a lot of transfers coming in, so they could be a good team next year.
In other news, Arch Manning records the most rushing yards by a Texas quarterback in a game since 2009. I really do feel like he has a lot of potential in the NFL. He kind of has a similar play style to Peyton and Eli Manning, who he's related to, obviously. However, he has one thing that they do not have, which is a pretty good running game. In fact, I saw someone compare like his speed while running the ball, and he's actually faster than Saquon Barkley.
I don't
What do
know.
you,
His inconsistency is kind of what kind of deters him away from being an NFL ready quarterback. So I guess we'll see next season if he can turn those inconsistencies into more consistency
Yeah, I would
and hopefully
agree.
develop.
My thinking is he'll probably go a little later in the draft than he should, but that might mean he ends up getting a team that isn't like absolutely terrible. So he can actually have a decent start to his career, build some confidence, and then hopefully develop. I'm always kind of hesitant to hold people to the standard of their relatives, but I really do feel like he has a lot of potential. In other news, during the Armed Forces Bowl, they had two guys parachuting into the stadium. I believe one guy landed outside of the stadium, and the other landed on some sort of rope.
Like
I
a
think it
line
had,
wire.
yeah, a line wire, maybe holding up the goalpost or something, or the net. And he like fell, I don't know, 30 feet or so. It was pretty high, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a pretty high fall.
And he fell basically right in front of the crowd onto like presumably concrete. And as far as we know, he got up and walked away under his own power. But I saw the clip. It was very scary.
Like we mentioned earlier with the bye weeks, are they worth it? Some statistics over that. So over the past two seasons, the teams with the bye week are now 1-7. Indiana is the only team to win off the bye week.
I don't
Uh,
think having a bye week in and of itself is bad, but when it's 20 or more days, I don't even consider that a bye week anymore.
that's a bye month.
Yeah, that's way too long of a time to not play. How would you fix this?
Uh, how many teams are there? 12. I would say maybe making it a 16 team playoff is a way you could change it, or making it down to an 8 team playoff. Um, so that way you're eliminating the buys and everybody plays the first week.
I think you also could, in theory, just eliminate the like first week or two that everyone gets, right?
Yeah, because really, that's not even really a bye week. They're already starting bowl games that week, so I don't even know why they take that extra week off.
Yeah, I think that'd be one way to fix it. Also, this is the first college football playoff where the semifinals don't include Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, or Clemson. That's kind of something that a lot of people was hoping the expansion would help eliminate.
Yeah, hopefully we see some smaller schools get in and make it all the way. We saw Tulane make it this year. Uh, we saw JMU make it, but they didn't get very far. So maybe with the transfer portal, we'll see more players or more teams getting in there that are kind of Cinderella runs.
Yeah. But honestly, I expect the playoffs to expand or something next year. They seem to want to change it every year.
Yeah, they'll probably change it next year. I've seen talks of 14 team playoff and Notre Dame getting the auto bid into the playoffs. And
I think we should just have four teams play on one field at once.
what?
Save a lot of time.
Have like a rugby match or what?
No, you just do like a cross pattern football field. So one game is going north-south, the other game's going west-east.
So what if they're both at the 50-yard line?
They have to dodge each other.
That's a hot take, I guess.
It's a ludicrous take, I'll be honest.
Ludicrous. Speaking of Cinderella runs, Montana State ends Illinois State's Cinderella run in overtime. The final score was 35 to 34 to win the FCS championship. It is Montana State's first championship since 1984, which is 41 years ago. They're now the only college football program to win championships in three different divisions: the NAIA, Division Two, and Division One AA, which is now the FCS, for four total championships: one in 1956, one in 1976, one in 1984, like I said, and this year, 2025.
Do you think that they will get promoted?
Potentially. I know they have a big game next year. They play Oregon. So maybe if they show out in that game, they can get brought up to the FBS level.
Perhaps they could be the first team to have the championship in four different divisions.
I also saw it could be the first time, or maybe it isn't the first time, but since Montana State won and Oregon's still in the playoffs, it would be a champion versus a champion.
To start next season.
Yep.
Hmm. Louisville will not have any returning starters on offense next season, with 8 of their players graduating and 3 entering the portal. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't think you can develop team chemistry without a team.
I mean, in theory, the bench players could be developing chemistry, though, and now it's finally their turn to shine.
Hopefully, Louisville can make a turnaround. I don't think they've really had a really good season since Lamar.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, they've had decent seasons, but not outstanding seasons. And not really the best of players since Lamar either. So we have a little bit of a college football controversy going on in Washington. Their quarterback, Desmond Williams Jr., he decided he's going to enter the transfer portal days after signing an NIL deal saying that he would stay with the Huskies, which is prompting Washington to consider legal action and potentially testing the limits of player contracts and the transfer portal rules.
Speaking of controversy, one thing I want to debate with you, Nick, is should the transfer windows for coaches and players be moved? Would there be any downsides to this? It's very clear that it affects the players and teams during playoffs. I mean, Ole Miss is a little bit of an exception to this, but they lost their coach going into the playoffs. Surely that affects your mental.
Yeah, I mean, it really does affect your team. We've seen multiple teams lose players before the playoff game started. I believe there's some Georgia players saying that they were going to transfer. There's already a few Ohio State players saying they were going to transfer. Miami players, they announced they were transferring. I think the portal should be opened or shouldn't be allowed to announce you're thinking about transferring until after the playoffs, maybe a month after the playoffs, and then the portal window opens like right before spring training or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, it also affects coaches, like we saw Ryan Day having to play call.
Yeah, I think college football needs to take a look into this and see what changes they can make because it, I don't want to say it greatly impacted the playoffs, but it did make some kind of impact, especially non-playoff teams like bowl games, like Texas.
Not to mention, the coaches have to um, call players, have to recruit them in the midst of training and prepping for the playoffs. I know Ryan Day talked about this. He was very stressed having to manage, you know, calling people to get them to transfer and whatnot, while also planning for the Miami game.
Yeah, definitely very stressful for players and coaches. So definitely something they need to look into to relieve stress. And I mean, they could make college football an unlikable sport to watch.
Well, the NFL has a trade deadline cut off, so it's not like they go into the playoffs having to worry about transfers. Why does it make any sense for college football to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just went into it not even really thinking about it because of the money now, and coaches can go and uh, behind people's backs and kind of negotiate with the players when they're not supposed to be. I guess. Moving on, we got some coaching updates. Utah offensive coordinator Jason Beck has informed Utah officials that he's taking the offensive coordinator job at Michigan. BYU defensive coordinator Jay Hill has officially agreed to become Michigan's defensive coordinator Boise State co-defensive coordinator signs with Michigan to be their safeties coach. So that really adds to their coaching staff, makes their team a little harder coaching wise next year. Because I know Utah had a good season, and they're saying that this coaching staff is potentially better than the last coaching staff, and they were a pretty decent team last year. Clemson hired Chad Morris to their new offensive coordinator position. He was previously an offensive coordinator at Clemson from 2011 to 2014 and was an analyst for the team in 2023. Georgia Tech hired the Ravens tight end coach George Godsey be the school's new offensive coordinator. Northwestern is hiring former UCLA play caller Jerry Neuheisel as the school's new quarterbacks coach. Duke is promoting Binnock Cody Tuwaku to the program's new GM, and Stanford is hiring Virginia offensive line coach Terry Heffernan as the new offensive coordinator. Ohio State hired Cortez Hankton from LSU. I never saw an update on that, but he did get hired as the wide receivers coach.
Oh, okay. How long was he at LSU?
He coached Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Let me
Okay. Well,
see.
I'm not hating on that then. I wonder who we will have as an offensive coordinator if we're not gonna have him like promoted to that. He seems very eligible.
Yeah, he's definitely got a good reputation.
I feel like Ryan Day's got like some sneaky connection with someone. Maybe an NFL guy. All right, now we're gonna move on to players declaring for the draft. We have Michigan tight end Marlon Klein, Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate, and safety Caleb Downs. It is very sad to see Carnell and Caleb declaring for the draft, although arguably it is kind of expected.
Yeah, I mean they're top 10 picks, so they might as well go and start their careers.
I do wish them the best. Although I did see Jeremiah Smith said he's not going anywhere. It's nice to see him so loyal because usually players like that can kind of be full of themselves.
Which brings us into our next segment: players that are returning to their schools. Florida State All ACC first team wide receiver Deuce Robinson decides he's going to forego the draft to return to Florida State.
LSU star linebacker Whit Weeks is returning,
Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson is returning.
and Michigan has three players: quarterback Bryce Underwood, running back Jordan Marshall, and cornerback Zeke Berry.
Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss is working to get a 6 year of eligibility so he can return. He's trying to get like a medical thing for this season, I saw.
And Oklahoma defensive lineman David Stone,
Louisville running back Isaac Brown.
as well as Texas A&M cornerback Des Ricks.
Ole Miss will have a running back returning, Kawan Lacey.
And like we said, Ohio State's wide receiver Jeremiah Smith.
These are just players that announced that they're returning. There's probably many others that are
Yeah,
returning
there's a ton more.
that. Now we're going to move into players that are not returning. They're going to other schools. Starting with Alabama, the players that committed to Alabama are NC State running back Hollywood Smothers, Virginia Tech linebacker Caleb Woodson, Michigan offensive lineman Caden Strayhorn, USC defensive lineman Devin Tompkins.
Arizona State has the Kentucky quarterback Cutter Boley, Washington wide receiver Raiden Vines Bright, Colorado wide receiver Omarion Miller, Villanova running back David Avitt, Texas cornerback Caleb Chester, and Ohio State punter Nick McClarty. Why did I say it like that?
What are you,
Nick
British?
Nick McClarty.
Arkansas's commits are Cincinnati safety Christian Harrison, Memphis quarterback A.J. Hill, Michigan running back Jasper Parker, USC defensive lineman Carlin Jones, Clemson's cornerback Shelton Lewis, North Carolina linebacker Kamori House, Virginia defensive lineman Hunter Osborne, and Auburn edge Jamonta Walker.
And Auburn has Michigan State offensive lineman Stanton Ramil committing, as well as 9 USF players, including quarterback Lachlan Hewlett and Byram Brown, running back Nakai Davenport, wide receivers Christian Neptune, Corey Pettigrew, Chaz Nimrod, and Jeremiah Kroger, tight end Jonathan Eccles, and cornerback Gavin Jenkins. Did they get a coach from USF?
Uh, I believe so. Yes, Alex Golesh came from USF.
Well, that would explain why so many players are coming.
For Cal, they have one commit so far, Washington running back Adam Muhammad.
For Clemson, we have Penn State defensive back Elliott Washington II, Cal linebacker Luke Farrelly, Old Dominion safety Jerome Carter III, Southern Miss safety Corey Myrick, West Georgia defensive lineman Courtney Kelly.
For Colorado, we got Miami, Ohio wide receiver Cam Perry, San Jose State wide receiver Danny Scudero, Charlotte defensive lineman Yamil Talib, Monmouth defensive lineman Lamont Lester Jr., Sacramento State running back Damian Henderson II, Appalachian State defensive lineman Dylan Manuel, JMU cornerback Justin Eaglin, North Dakota State edge Toby Anine, Bowling Green linebacker Gideon ESPN Lampron, Notre Dame defensive back Cree Thomas, and Tulane defensive lineman Santana Hopper.
And Florida has two Baylor players committing, safety DJ Coleman and defensive lineman DK Kalu and quarterback Aaron Philo. They also have JMU tight end Lakota Dupree, Penn State offensive lineman TJ Shanahan, Cincinnati running back Evan Pryor, and Jacksonville State defensive lineman Emmanuel Oyabadajo, Wake Forest running back Micah Mays, and Kentucky safety Cam Dooley.
Florida State picked up South Alabama quarterback Nehemiah Chandler, Texas running back Quindravion Wisner, Auburn quarterback Ashton Daniels, Purdue offensive lineman Braden Joyner, Bowling Green offensive lineman Nate Paps, and Texas A&M edge Rylan Kennedy.
Georgia has Clemson safety Khalil Burns committing.
Georgia Tech has two Alabama players committing, athlete Jalen Mbakwe and offensive lineman Joseph Ionata.
In Houston, we have Oregon running back Makai Hughes and Tulane offensive lineman Shadir Hurst.
Illinois, we got two commits, East Texas A&M cornerback Levon Williams and East Carolina quarterback Caton Hauser.
Indiana, we have Wisconsin safety Preston Zachman, Michigan State wide receiver Nick Marsh, Kansas State edge Toby Usansami, as well as edge Chidi Obizer, TCU quarterback Josh Hoover, Cincinnati defensive back Jaquan Sanks, Boston College running back Turbo Richard,
He's
Miami
back.
Miami tight end Brock Schott, and Notre Dame defensive lineman Joshua Burnham.
Iowa State has one commit so far from Arkansas State quarterback Jalen Rayner.
JMU also has one commit, that being LSU wide receiver Killen Billiot.
Kansas has New Mexico State linebacker Quincy Davis and Tulane defensive lineman Trevon McAlpine.
Kansas State has Texas A&M wide receiver Isaiah Williams.
Kentucky picked up Arkansas linebacker Tavion Wallace, Baylor offensive lineman Colton Price, Notre Dame quarterback Kenny Minchie, who previously was going to go to Nebraska and then decommitted and committed to Kentucky. Florida has two players, safety Aaron Gates and safety Jordan Castell. LSU defensive lineman Ahmed Bro. Oklahoma running back Javante Barnes. Alabama offensive lineman Olaf Aline. And Michigan defensive back Andre Clark.
Louisville has Ohio State quarterback Lincoln Keenholz, Kentucky defensive back DJ Walker, Missouri running back Marquise Davis, South Carolina offensive lineman Casey Henry, and Tulsa tight end Brody Foley.
LSU got Hawaii wide receiver Jackson Harris, Pitt tight end Malachi Thomas, Old Dominion wide receiver Trey Brown, Utah running back Rayson Gillory, Boise State safety Ty Benefield, Clemson defensive lineman Stephen Green, Charlotte running back Rod Gainey Jr., Kansas State wide receiver Jace Brown, and Florida wide receiver Eugene Wilson III. For Maryland, Old Dominion running back Traquan Jones, and Minnesota, Auburn wide receiver Perry Thompson. Mississippi State, Missouri wide receiver Marquise Johnson, Appalachian State quarterback A.J. Swan, Iowa State cornerback Quentin Taylor, and Florida cornerback Jameer Grimsley.
For Missouri, we have Oregon cornerback Jalil Florence, Ole Miss quarterback Austin Simmons, Notre Dame safety Jadon Blair, and Auburn linebacker Robert Woodward Jr., as well as defensive back Kinsley Lador Foston.
Nebraska, we got UNLV quarterback Anthony Calandria, Iowa State offensive lineman Brendan Black, San Diego State linebacker Owen Chambliss, and South Carolina offensive lineman Tree Babalade.
Northwestern, we got Michigan State quarterback Aiden Childs and Oklahoma linebacker Kobe McKenzie.
North Carolina got Charleston Southern offensive lineman Andrew Threat, Wisconsin quarterback Billy Edwards Jr., as well as wide receiver Trek Kekahuna. Penn State edge Jalen Harvey, Florida defensive lineman Tarvorius Brown, Baylor offensive lineman Sean Tompkins, and Texas A&M quarterback Miles O'Neill.
And Ohio State has Ohio tight end Mason Williams, UCF defensive lineman John Walker, and UTSA wide receiver Devin McEwen. Do you know if any of these players are supposed to be like very significant for Ohio State?
I know the tight end is like a 3-star, and he was like the backup to the other Ohio tight end we got last year. I don't remember who it was. Um, and I've seen some good things about the UTSA wide receiver Devin McEwen, but it's hard to say because he played for a lower conference, like a
It'd be
group
nice
of
to get
five.
some offensive linemen.
I do like that we picked up a defensive lineman though, because we are losing a few. Oklahoma commits Florida tight end Hayden Hanson, Colorado State tight end Rocky Beers, and running back Lloyd Avant. Virginia wide receiver Terrell Harris, Michigan linebacker Cole Sullivan, Texas wide receiver Parker Livingston, Oregon cornerback Dakota Fields, and UTSA edge Kenny Ozuwalu.
For Oklahoma State, we got 6 North Texas commits. Cornerback Drew Mastamaker, running back Caleb Hawkins, safety Quinton Hammonds, offensive tackle Braden Nelson, wide receiver Wyatt Young, and linebacker Ethan Weslowski.
Ole Miss, we got Baylor linebacker Keaton Thomas, Colorado defensive lineman Jaheim Otis, Auburn cornerback Jay Crawford, Southern Miss linebacker Chris Jones, Nevada edge Jonathan Maldonado, LSU offensive lineman Carius Kern, and 2 Florida commits, defensive end Sharif Denson and defensive lineman Akai Barrow.
For Penn State, we have Ohio State running back James Peoples, Colorado edge Alexander McPherson, Oklahoma State edge Armstrong Nadim, and Iowa State tight end Benjamin Brommer, tight end Gabe Burkle, wide receiver Brett Eskildson, wide receiver Chase Sowell, running back Carson Hansen, offensive tackle Will Tompkins, quarterback Rocco Becht, quarterback Alex Manx, safety Marcus Neal Jr., and offensive lineman Cool II. That's a lot of Iowa State players. Almost like they got their coach.
Purdue got Texas running back Jarrett Gibson to commit.
Rutgers got Boston College quarterback Dylan Longerin.
SMU picked up Bowling Green linebacker Caden Marshall.
In South Carolina, picked up Oklahoma wide receiver Jaden Gibson, Georgia defensive lineman Jordan Thomas, and UCF offensive lineman Carter Miller.
Stanford picked up Michigan quarterback Davis Warren.
And at Syracuse, we have LSU running back Juwan Johnson.
TCU, we got Harvard quarterback Jaden Craig.
Tennessee, we got Kansas State safety Qua Moss, LSU offensive lineman Ori Williams, and Auburn cornerback Kayan Lee.
For Texas, we got Arkansas defensive lineman Ian Geffen, Michigan State tight end Michael Masunas, and Rutgers cornerback Bo Moscow.
For Texas A&M, we have UTSA tight end Houston Thomas, Colorado safety Tafik Byard, and defensive lineman Brandon Davis Swain, and LSU offensive lineman Cohen Echols and offensive lineman Tyree Adams, as well as South Carolina offensive lineman Trovon Baugh, Fresno State tight end Richie Anderson, Northwestern edge Anto Saka, and Alabama offensive lineman Wilkham Formby.
Texas Tech, we got Kansas State linebacker Austin Romaine, Alabama State wide receiver Jalen Jones, Liberty wide receiver Dante Lee, Cincinnati quarterback Brendan Sorsby, Akron defensive lineman Julian LaVenture, Washington defensive lineman Bryce Butler, UTSA cornerback David Martin, San Diego State edge Trey White, Liberty wide receiver Dante Lee, Wake Forest defensive lineman Mateen Ibaragba, Miami, Ohio edge Adam Trick, and Pitt wide receiver Kenny Johnson.
Tulane gets Mercer center Gavin Marks.
UCF gets JMU quarterback Alonzo Barnett III.
For UCLA, we have Florida wide receiver Zell, Michigan wide receiver Samaj Morgan, JMU offensive lineman Riley Robel, edge Aiden Gobira, and running back Wayne Knight.
UNLV, we have one player, Auburn quarterback Jackson Arnold.
And USC, we got Iowa State cornerback Jontez Williams, Washington linebacker Devin Bryant, North Carolina State wide receiver Terrell Anderson, Michigan State defensive lineman Alex Van Sumeren, and Penn State edge Zariah Fisher.
USF got Auburn defensive back Fred Gaskin, Ohio State linebacker CJ Hicks, Mississippi State quarterback Luke Kromenhoek, and LSU quarterback Michael Van Buren.
And Utah got Utah State wide receiver Braden Pagan.
Vanderbilt got East Carolina tight end Javonte Connor and Pitt offensive lineman Lyndon Cooper.
Virginia got Rutgers cornerback Jacoby Henderson and Tennessee running back Peyton Lewis.
Wake Forest got North Carolina quarterback Gio Lopez.
Washington State got Florida wide receiver Tank Hawkins.
West Virginia got Wisconsin cornerback Jameer Latimer, USC wide receiver Prince Strachan, Jacksonville State running back Cam Cook, Memphis safety Kamari Wilson, two Oklahoma players, quarterback Michael Hawkins Jr., and defensive back Malik Hawkins.
And Wisconsin got Old Dominion quarterback Colton Joseph, Florida State cornerback Kai Bates, Ohio State cornerback Bryce West, Southeastern wide receiver Jalen Damagoo, and USC running back Brian Jackson.
Wyoming got William and Mary quarterback Tyler Hughes. And that is all for the transfer portal.
That was a lot.
Yeah, I wonder if there's about 1,000 players there because there's 4,000 in the portal. Now we'll be moving on to the NFL segment. Starting with some news that happened this week. So the viewership for the NFL went up 10% from last season, averaging 18.7 million views per game. And this is the second highest viewers since the league began tracking audience averages in 1988. Very good. I wonder if they'll see growth in the playoffs as well.
I would imagine so. The Seahawks allowed just 3 first downs in the first half against the 49ers. The 49ers had the same number of punts in the first half against the Seahawks as they did in all of December. because they would win in their games by like 40 points. So they didn't have to punt much.
That
And
really
C
speaks for Seattle's defense.
Yeah. And CMC finished with just 23 rushing yards against the Seahawks, his fewest yards in a game in over 8 years. Yeah, we have a crazy defense. In fact, I saw that we're number one in a defensive statistic that I don't remember the name of.
DVOA.
Yeah, DVOA, which, do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is. I looked it up, but I forgot already.
Well, either way, it's some sort of advanced metric. And anyways, the 4 out of the last 5 teams that had ranked one going into the playoffs won the Super Bowl.
So DVOA is defense adjusted value over average.
So yeah, there's a good chance that the Seahawks could make it to the Super Bowl this year. I don't want to be too preemptive. We got to take one game at a time. But I don't know. It really feels like their year.
Devin Bush on the Browns had a 97-yard pick six off of Joe Burrow. Uh, Looked like he was going to be stopped, but gave the Browns their longest receiving touchdown in history, probably. After the Giants beat the Cowboys, the Raiders have officially clinched the first pick in the 2026 draft, which we will talk a little bit more about later.
And the NFC West becomes the first division with three 12-plus win teams in a season. They almost had 13-plus wins, all three. But like I said last week, the Rams blew it. They also become the fourth division to have three of their four teams make the playoffs in the same season multiple times.
In 2023, the Ravens had Mike McDonald as their defensive coordinator. In that season, the Ravens had the best defense in the league, and Seattle had the 25th best defense in the league. Fast forwarding to this season, where Mike McDonald is Seattle's head coach, the Ravens now have the 18th ranked defense, and Seattle has the second best defense. Really
You
helps having a
know,
defensive minded head coach.
I saw a lot of people saying they never should have let him leave, but there's really not much you can do when you've earned a head coach position.
Yeah, you can't really compete with that, I don't think.
Nope, not really. And you know what's
Although,
funny? I think they just fired their head coach, didn't they?
yeah, they just fired John Harbaugh, which we'll talk about later. Um,
So they maybe should have hired him as head coach. In hindsight,
we only have one injury this week that I found. Saints wide receiver Chris Olave was out on Sunday after the doctors discovered he had a blood clot in his lung. He's had no prior history with blood clots and is now expected to be sidelined for about a month before being ready for the offseason.
he's had a really tough career with having a ton of concussions. I know he said in an interview once that he almost considered retiring.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because he was a really good Ohio State receiver. I really wish he could have the opportunity to actually prove that he's a good receiver.
Well, when he has been healthy, he's been pretty good, I would say, in the NFL.
Yeah, he's been a pretty good player. Just sucks that injuries are making his stats not look as good, I would say.
Now we're going to talk about the current NFL draft order and the projected picks. The Las Vegas Raiders have the first pick, with them most likely taking quarterback Fernando Mendoza. I think this is a give me, but I don't know. Number one pick quarterbacks in the past have not always worked out.
I mean, Bryce Young is starting to work out now. One of the recent first overall picks. He didn't pan out to start, and now he's doing better. So I guess it's a 50-50 chance. With the second pick, the New York Jets are projected to take quarterback Dante Moore.
And the Arizona Cardinals are projected to take offensive lineman Francis Magoya at the third pick.
Tennessee Titans are projected to have the fourth pick, and they are projected to take linebacker Arvell Reese.
At 5, the New York Giants are projected to take wide receiver Carnell Tate, which I feel bad for him if that's true.
I mean, he has Jackson Dart.
I was thinking the other day, aside from making more money as a top 10 pick, you, as a rookie, might prefer getting drafted a bit later if you get a head start on making the playoffs.
Yeah. By the way, I told Christian this earlier, so if this happens before Friday, I predicted it. But I said that John Harbaugh will either go to the Giants or the Raiders, and I'm leaning more towards the Giants now. So, if he goes to the Giants, I predicted it. Anyway, with the sixth pick, the Cleveland Browns take wide receiver Jordan Tyson.
And at 7, the Washington Commanders are projected to take edge David Bailey.
At 8, the New Orleans Saints will projectedly take running back Jeremiah Love.
At 9, we got Kansas City Chiefs taking defensive lineman Reuben Bain Jr.
At the 10th pick, we got Cincinnati Bengals projected to take safety Caleb Downs.
That could be a big pickup for them.
It'll really help their defense.
I could see him becoming a captain too.
Yeah,
And
probably midway through the season.
and at 11, we got Miami Dolphins taking offensive lineman Spencer Fano.
Number 12, Dallas Cowboys are projected to take linebacker Sony Styles.
And the LA Rams at 13, via the 8 and 9 Falcons, are projected to take wide receiver Makai Lemon, who we've talked about a couple times.
I think him and Puka Nakua would be a good fit for each other. Definitely make the Rams more scary than they already are.
I don't quite get this. I don't feel like they need another wide receiver.
Yeah, but the Seahawks also took JSN a few years ago when they had Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
I guess maybe they plan on cutting someone or not re-signing him.
Plus, they might be looking for a receiver to replace Cooper Kupp since he came to Seattle last year.
That's true.
Who knows? At 14, we got Baltimore Ravens projectedly taking defensive tackle Peter Woods.
And at 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are projected to take edge Keldrick Falk.
At number 16, the New York Jets have a pick via the 8 and 9 Colts for defensive tackle Caden McDonald.
And the Detroit Lions at 17 are projected to take offensive lineman Caleb Lomu.
For number 18, the Minnesota Vikings are projected to take cornerback Mansour Dulane.
And now for the rest of these picks, these are all current playoff teams, so these are very subject to change. Number 19, Carolina Panthers are taking tight end Kenyon Sadiq.
Number 20, Chicago Bears are projected to take edge Cassius Howell.
21, Pittsburgh Steelers are taking wide receiver Casey Conception.
The LA Chargers got the 22nd pick as of right now and are projected to take offensive lineman Caden Proctor.
The 49ers at 23 are projected to take Denzel Boston, a wide receiver.
The Bills are at 24 and they're projected to take linebacker CJ Allen.
Dallas Cowboys, via the 9-7-1 Packers, are projected to get cornerback Jermad McCoy at the 25th pick.
26th pick is currently the Philadelphia Eagles for cornerback Brandon Cease.
And the 27th pick, Houston Texans are projected to take defensive tackle Amari Washington.
Cleveland Browns have the 28th pick via the 13 and 4 Jaguars, and they're projected to take offensive lineman Oliva Vega Ione.
The 29th pick, New England Patriots are projected to take edge Matoyo Ugalele.
The Rams at the 30th pick are projected to take cornerback Avion Terrell.
And the 31st pick, Denver Broncos are projected to take linebacker Jake Golday.
And finally, the Seahawks are at 32, projected to take cornerback Colton Hood.
I can't believe we're going to take on more defensive players.
I think we could use one more offensive lineman, potentially.
Well, I think we had the best offensive line in the NFL this year, didn't we? Or something like that. I know one of our rookies was like really, really good.
Yeah, Gray Zabel had one of the best offensive line seasons this year for rookies.
Never heard said more. And finally, we're going to move on to the coaching news in the NFL. The Falcons have dismissed head coach Raheem Morris and GM Terry Fontenot. Rich McKay is no longer the CEO of the Falcons, and Greg Beatles takes on his position while staying the president of the team. The Falcons are also creating a new president of football role, with Matt Ryan being the top candidate.
Be interesting to see him come back to the Falcons. I don't know what the president of football role entails, but hopefully the Falcons make the playoffs next year after losing to the Jets, and that's the reason they couldn't make it this year. Moving on, the Raiders have fired head coach Pete Carroll after one season with the team.
He probably should have stayed retired.
I've
He
heard a lot of
took
people
on a
say that.
took on a bit more than he could chew, I think, with that team. And the Browns have fired head coach Kevin Stefanski and is a top candidate for coaching openings.
The Bengals president Mike Brown reportedly said head coach Zach Taylor and director of player personnel Duke Tobin will return for next season.
The Giants have decided to keep GM Joe Schoen another season.
Cardinals fired head coach Jonathan Gannon, who is also a somewhat top prospect for coaching.
The Ravens have fired, like we said, head coach John Harbaugh, which I don't know about you, I was a little surprised about that.
Um, Kinda, but kinda not. I mean, they kinda need to get rid of Lamar.
I felt like they almost made the playoffs, and I wouldn't say it was necessarily the coach's fault that they didn't. Like, it ultimately came down to a close game.
Yeah, very unfortunate that he got fired, but I know him and Tomlin had a long rivalry, about 20 years or so. So I guess we'll see who will be the next Ravens coach and see if they can bring him to the playoffs. The Commanders' offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury is leaving the team to pursue other opportunities.
And the Cowboys fired defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus after one season with the team. They have now fired four defensive coordinators in 4 seasons.
I've said this to a few people. Uh, at what point is it the general manager?
I think you
Should,
just gotta relocate.
should should Jerry Jones fire himself as GM and get a new GM?
Well, I honestly see him retiring from health reasons or dying before he leaves.
He'll probably die before he gets a new GM.
I would not be surprised if they win a Super Bowl a couple years after he's not the GM anymore.
The Miami Dolphins hired Hall of Fame quarterback and ESPN analyst Troy Aikman as a consultant to advise the organization on its general manager search process. I will advise don't hire Jerry Jones.
And now we have a couple of records and milestones to cover. Garrett Wilson was the Jets' leading receiver this season. However, he did not catch a pass after week 6.
That's a
You
sad
know,
stat.
if we needed more evidence how bad the Jets are, here it is. I heard some people saying they should just relocate at this point. I feel like whoever's Jet fans now are like just fans that were fans for 20 plus years. And whether or not they relocate, I think they still will remain fans.
You're all about relocating tonight.
Well, I was just saying, like, there's already another team in New York as well. It's not like the entire state of New York will be devastated at this.
Maybe
I
they
don't know.
moved to New Jersey.
Aren't they already there? I'm pretty sure their stadium is in New Jersey.
Oh, maybe they moved to Buffalo.
I'm all for keeping the name though. Jets is a pretty cool logo and everything.
Yeah, I like their black jerseys, the black and green.
We should do the Cleveland Jets.
We'll get the Chicago Jets, and then the Chicago Bears will move to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Wait, why Cleveland? There's already a team. The Columbus Jets. There we go.
I saw that Fort Wayne is trying to actually get the Chicago Bears to come.
I did see that. I don't think that is gonna have any pull really.
I don't either, but you never know. After missing 9 games this season, unfortunately, Mike Evans failed to hit the 1,000 yard mark for the first time in his career.
Yes, I believe he only had like 300 something yards. And guess what, people? We've been talking about it for a while. Myles Garrett now holds the single season sack record with 23 sacks this season. He broke the record with 130 fewer snaps than Michael Strahan and 179 fewer snaps than TJ Watt, which is absolutely insane. I also saw on the clip that he got the sack, he reacted in like 0.23 seconds, which when I first saw it, I thought he was offsides. But then I noticed the offensive tackle actually moved first. I don't know if he predicted that or what, but it was crazy that he could react that quick. Maybe he got lucky, who knows?
I saw a lot of people upset because Joe Burrow, they think Joe Burrow kind of just gave him that record.
Yeah, but once he got touched, he was gonna get sacked. He kind of just wanted to protect himself, I felt like. It was a little weird looking though. He kind of just hits the ground like as soon as he's touched. But I can't really blame him. Joe's been hurt a lot. Fun fact, Myles Garrett's double team rate was 57% compared to TJ Watt's 15%.
So if the fewer sacks weren't enough for you, how about the double team percentage? Quite possibly one of the greatest defensive players of all time.
For sure. Unfortunately, on a bad team.
Yeah, Seattle's got some cap space this offseason. Maybe we could make something work.
Well, after re-signing Devin Witherspoon and Jackson Smith, I don't know how much cap space we're gonna have.
Trey McBride had an amazing season, but it's not being talked about enough, in my opinion, because he's on the Cardinals. He had 126 receptions for 1,239 yards and 11 touchdowns. He ranked first among tight ends for all three stats. He also had 300 plus fantasy points this season, while no other tight end broke 200 fantasy points.
I'm sure someone is very happy they took him.
Even though they aren't winning games.
It's true. Is winning games more important than the fantasy points?
No. So Cardinals fans are mad and fantasy owners are happy.
Well, there you have it. And Zach Charbonnet becomes the first Seahawks with 12 rushing touchdowns in a season since Marshawn Lynch in 2014. Didn't we cover this last week?
It was 11 touchdowns, I think.
Oh,
Or no, it was double digit touchdowns.
gotcha.
The Seahawks' 14 win season is the most wins in a single season in Seahawk franchise history.
I'm really hoping that Pope thing is actually the number of losses and not the wins.
Well, we did see that every time they made the first seed in the playoffs, they made it to the Super Bowl.
That is true. So there's hope.
Hope for the Pope and the first seed.
That should be a t-shirt.
Yeah, we'll make a T-shirt. Hope for the Pope in the first seed, and it'll have JSN on it.
Speaking of JSN, he finished the season 8th all time for single season receiving yards. He also had a great season of 119 catches, 1,793 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns. All are career highs, and he finished the season first in receiving yards.
JSN also became the first player in the Super Bowl era to lead the NFL in receiving yards while playing for a team that ranked bottom three in pass play percentage. The Lions had the most pass attempts in the league when Calvin Johnson set the record in 2012.
Could you imagine if we passed a lot more, how many yards he would have had?
He probably could have broke the record if they passed more, but they were up so much at some points that he was already out multiple quarters because of being up, and they were running the ball because they were up so much.
And Kenneth Walker's a pretty good running back, as well as our other one.
Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, he's more of a punch it into the goal line kind of back, and then Kenneth is more of a get to the goal line kind of back. I
Well,
saw some
Zach
people
Charbonnet had
mad.
like a 27-yard touchdown against the 49ers.
That's true. But I also saw that people are mad that Kenneth kind of gets robbed of touchdowns all the time. They take him out of the game. But it's a strategic move. You got to do what you got to do, and I'm sure he's happy about winning. Sam Darnold becomes the second quarterback to ever win 14 games in back-to-back seasons. The only other quarterback to do this is Tom Brady in 2003 and 2004. What a turnaround for him in his career. From being on the Jets and everyone thinking he was a bust to going to the Vikings and playing pretty solid, and now this.
Caleb Williams broke the Bears franchise single season record of 3,838 passing yards set by Eric Kramer in 1995. He just barely came up short of 4,000 yards. He would have been the first 4,000-yard passing quarterback for the Bears.
Yeah, he's been really good for them.
Wish we could have seen Justin Fields do that for the Bears if he had receivers.
He also ran the ball a lot. In other news, Justin Jefferson joins Mike Evans and Randy Moss as the only players in NFL history with at least 1,000 receiving yards in each of their first 6 career seasons.
Matthew Stafford joined Dan Marino in 1984 and Peyton Manning in 2013 as the only players ever to have multiple touchdown passes in 15 games in a single season, and passes Dan Marino for seventh on the all-time passing touchdowns list.
He's also the only quarterback in NFL history to have multiple seasons with a wide receiver racking up 1,700 receiving yards, Calvin Johnson in 2012 and Cooper Kupp in 2021, as well as Puka Nakua in 2025. Really an underrated quarterback when you think about the all-time greats.
Is he an underrated quarterback, or does he like to choose one target?
I don't know, but I think statistically he's got a case for being better than a lot of quarterbacks that we would
He's an
consider all-time
underrated
great.
quarterback. Trick question.
Why did you even bring it up then?
Well, it's debatable. Anyways, speaking of Puka Nakua, he passed Randy Moss for second most receiving yards in NFL history by a player in their first three career seasons. Texans kicker Kami Fairbairn tied the Texans franchise record with 6 field goals made in a game against the Colts. He also tied David Akers for the NFL record for the most field goals made in a season.
The Jets become the first NFL team to ever finish a season with 0 interceptions. They also finished with the fewest turnovers in a single season with only 4 fumbles. Well, like I mentioned earlier, if you wanted another example as to why the Jets are bad, here you go. And you know what's even crazier is they had um Sauce Gardner on their team for a while before they traded. And I mean he had a really good rookie year. Yeah, you would think at least him would get an interception, but I guess not. It's crazy. That's a crazy stat though. Cam Little hit a 67-yard field goal against the Titans before halftime. He set the record earlier this season with a 68-yard field goal. And I think he set a record in the preseason too, but obviously that didn't count. This guy could be a very big name kicker if he has a long career, I'm sure. Um, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see him hit a 70-yard field goal by the end of his career. He has, I think, enough leg to do it. Wish Ohio State had him.
So Jason Myers passed Sean Alexander. Sean Alexander's at 168. Jason Myers is at 171. Jason Myers now has the highest scoring season in Seahawks franchise history
For any player.
for any player on the Seahawks.
And he did it as a kicker. That's pretty crazy.
Well, looking at the list, a lot of the list is kickers. So it's almost more crazy that Sean Alexander was in first.
I mean, I guess you get 3 points here or there and a couple extra points, it adds up. But I figured a quarterback, getting 6 points pretty consistently. I mean,
Well,
obviously not running
I
backs,
don't
but
I don't think passing touchdowns count.
oh,
It
really?
has to be like rushing or receiving
Oh, well
or
then, yeah, it
kicking.
absolutely makes sense because they have basically two opportunities to score field goal or extra point.
Trevor Lawrence broke the Jaguars franchise record for most total touchdowns in a season. The record was previously held by Blake Bortles in 2015.
Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Some might say Blake Bortles is the best quarterback of all time.
No, no one would say that. No. Gardner Minshew's probably better than him, honestly. Wouldn't you say?
No. Blake Bortles was a dog that season. 37 touchdowns.
DJ Stroud surpasses John Elway for the second most wins by a quarterback selected first or second in the NFL draft through their first 3 seasons in the Super Bowl era.
Alec Pierce is the first player since 1990 to lead the NFL in yards per reception in consecutive seasons.
James Cook claimed the 2025 rushing title with 1,621 rushing yards.
Myles Garrett claimed the sack title with 23 sacks, and, like we said earlier, the record.
Kevin Byard III is the 2025 interception title holder with 7 interceptions.
Jackson Smith and the Jigba claimed the receiving title with 1,783 receiving yards.
Matthew Stafford claimed the passing title with 4,707 passing yards.
Jordan Brooks is the 2025 tackle title holder with 183 total tackles.
And lastly, the Rams' .563 strength of the schedule is the highest a playoff team has had since at least 2004, which they started tracking the stat around 2002. The Seahawks have a pretty tough schedule next year, it seems like.
Yeah, they easily have 8 games against current playoff teams next season.
I think we're certainly capable of beating all of those teams. The question is how healthy can we stay and how much can we do it week to week? It's hard to go to good team to another good team, week to week.
Moving on to the playoffs, we got some finalized playoff news. So the Seahawks were projected to finish the season 7-10 at the beginning of the season. And instead, they went 14-3 and are now the first seed in the NFC and NFC West champions.
And although the Bucks beat the Panthers in the final game of the season, the Bucks needed the Saints to beat the Falcons to clinch the NFC South because the Falcons beat the Rams last week. So, since the Falcons beat the Saints, the Panthers will win their first division title since 2015. And for the third time in the last 12 seasons, the winner of the NFC South will have a losing record. That's a very competitive division, I would say, but they're like,
They're competitive against each other.
yeah, it's a
The
battle for
Jaguars,
who's the most mid.
yeah, you're either bad or mid. There's no good. The Jaguars win their third AFC South title in franchise history, and it's their first since 2022 after beating the Titans.
With the Broncos' win over the Chargers, the Broncos lock in the first seed in the AFC.
The Steelers clinched the AFC North with a win over the Ravens, and the Ravens have been eliminated from the playoffs after their rookie kicker, Tyler Loop, missed a 44-yard game winner. Both him and his fiancee received vile messages after the game, which we talked about before with the Ohio State kicker getting bad messages. It's really uncalled for. It's just a game.
Yeah. It
Although
really
you did,
was it really was an unfortunate way to end the game. You miss the kick, and then the other team misses the kick, right?
no, that was the last kick of the game.
I thought there was 2 missed kicks. Oh, what it was is there was a missed kick that would have put them up.
Yeah, Chris Boswell missed a kick. I know that.
Yeah, I believe the Steelers missed a kick that would have put them up enough that a kick by the Ravens wouldn't win the game or tie, but then they missed it.
They missed their extra point, which would
Oh,
have
is
made
that what it
it.
was?
Yeah, so they were up 26 to 24, and they missed their extra point. So the Ravens would have won
I gotcha,
if they
gotcha.
made their kick.
And they missed it. It's really an unfortunate way for it to end.
So with that being said, there have been over 6,000 field goal attempts in NFL history. Tyler Loop's missed field goal attempt against the Steelers is the only one of those attempts that came as time expired in the fourth quarter of the final week, with both teams' playoff hopes relying on the result of the kick.
I feel like I've seen that happen before, but I guess not. Like it's one of those things that you think would have happened, but I guess it just never has.
Maybe for not so much playoff hopes, but probably to win the division.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the bracket. We have the 5 seed Texans versus the Steelers, the 6 seed Bills versus the 3rd seed Jaguars, the 7 seed Chargers versus the 2 seed Patriots, the 5 seed Rams versus the 4 seed Panthers, the 6 seed 49ers versus the 7th seed versus the 3 seed Eagles, and the 7th seed Packers versus the 2 seed Bears. Nick, I want to hear your predictions and then I'll say mine.
I've seen a lot of people say uh, different things. I've seen Patriots, I've seen Broncos. As far as the AFC side, I've seen Seahawks, I've seen 49ers, I've seen Bears. On the NFC side, um, I think as long as the Seahawks take care of the ball on offense, they can make it to the Super Bowl. As far as the AFC side, um, if the Texans can take care of the ball, they could make the Super Bowl because they have the other best defense in the league. Um, but honestly, the Broncos are playing really well. The Patriots may give them a run for their money, but I could see a Seahawks Broncos rematch in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks winning again, hopefully.
Yeah, this is a very tough bracket for me because you have teams like the Bills who are notorious for making crazy comebacks. You have teams like the Jaguars who are sneakily good. You have players like the Patriots who have been really good all season but haven't played anyone super good. And then you have teams like the 49ers and Rams who are always sneakily good, as well as the Eagles who are consistently good. And you have the Packers versus the Bears, which in my opinion, the Packers have played better than the Bears when playing against each other, but the one time the Bears won this season was when Jordan Love was hurt. Last I heard, I believe Jordan Love is set to play this game. So I feel like they could win. So why don't we go through and say what team you think's going to win and then, finish with the Super Bowl.
All right, so you want to go game by game? Like I say who I think's going to win, and you say who you think's going to win that same game.
How about we just do your entire bracket and we do my entire bracket?
All right. So starting off on the AFC side, Texans versus Steelers. Steelers are notoriously first round exits, so the Texans will probably win. Um, I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think the Texans defense is going to hold Aaron Rodgers to probably 10 points at the most. Bills versus Jags. I could see the Bills getting the upset, but the Jaguars have been playing really good this season. If the Jags can't pull off the win, I see the Bills winning by maybe a field goal. Uh, Patriots and Chargers. Probably the Patriots. They are playing really good. They haven't really played anybody good, but I think they can still pull off the win against the Chargers. Moving over to the NFC, the Rams versus the Panthers. We've already seen the Panthers beat the Rams, but I think the Rams get the win this time, even though they're in Carolina. San Francisco versus the Eagles. San Francisco's been kind of struggling, except for defensively, they've been just struggling a little bit, um, like we saw in the Bears game. Uh, I think the 49ers can pull it off, though. Brock Purdy, they should have George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall. Um, so I think the 49ers will win that game. And then we got the Bears and the Packers. I think the Bears are going to win that, unfortunately. Or fortunately. Don't want to put any hate towards Bears fans. Moving back over to the AFC side, the Bills versus the Broncos. I think the Broncos will probably beat the Bills. And then I think the Patriots. I think the Texans will beat the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are tested enough this season. Um, then back over in the NFC side, the Seahawks and the 49ers play again. I could see the Seahawks winning again, especially if their defense holds up. Uh, and then we got the Bears versus the Rams. With them playing in the Bears Stadium, I could see the Bears getting the win, depending on the weather. Then we got Broncos and uh, who did I say? The Patriots? No, Broncos and Texans. Got the Broncos and Texans. I can see the Broncos winning again, uh, unless Houston's defense goes off, like I've said over and over again throughout these playoff rounds. Um, and then we got the Seahawks and Bears. This is also what does Sam Darnold do? Does Sam Darnold throw two interceptions and no touchdowns? I think the Seahawks can do it as long as they take care of the ball. Like I said, Broncos, 49ers. Broncos have a good offense. Seahawks have a good defense. I think the defense is going to prevail with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl.
So, does the wild card team play the bottom team winner?
The first seed team plays the lowest seeded team. So if the Chargers win, they would play the Broncos.
And if the Patriots win,
They would play the Jaguars. Unless the Bills won, then the Bills would play the Broncos, and then the Patriots would play the winner of the Steelers Texans game.
oh, I thought it went like the winner of the 5-4 seed goes against the 1 seed, and then 6-3 plays winner of 7-2.
I used to think that too, but then last year the Rams won and they played the Eagles or something. I forget. There's
Well,
a
I wish this
reseeding in the
graphic
second
made more
round.
sense.
Well,
Well, whatever.
that's how it would be if the second and third seed won, then the fourth seed won, then the fourth seed would play the first seed.
Well, you're gonna have to help me as I say mine then.
Okay.
All right, so I got as much as I feel like Aaron Rodgers could shock everyone, I think the Texans defense is too good and they have a pretty good offense. So I'm gonna go Texans over 40 over the Steelers. And then I'm gonna say that as much as I think the Bills are capable of a crazy comeback or something, I think the Jaguars are gonna show that they're actually the real deal and beat the Bills. Then I got the Patriots beating the Chargers. I think They're not a great team, but I think that they're gonna get through one round. Then over at the AFC, over at the NFC, I have the Rams beating the Panthers. I think the Rams have too many good players. I also have the 49ers beating the Eagles, although they are still having injuries, and they've had injuries all year. I think they're the better team when they're healthy. So I see that they're still good with injuries. And then I got Green Bay beating the Bears. Like I said, I think they're the better team. The only proof I've had that the Bears are better is when Jeremiah Love was out. Was when Jordan Love was out.
All right. So in the AFC side, it would be Texans and Broncos, and Jags and Patriots.
Okay. So I have the Broncos beating the Texans and the Jaguars beating the Patriots.
And then in the NFC, who'd you say? The Browns or Packers? Or Bears or Packers?
Packers.
Okay, so the Packers would play the Seahawks and the 49ers would play the Rams.
Okay. I got the Rams beating the 49ers. I think injuries are going to catch up to them at this point, and then the Seahawks beating the Packers.
So you got Broncos and Jags.
I got the Broncos winning that.
And then Seahawks and Packers, I think you said.
I got the Seahawks winning that, and then the Seahawks will beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Oh, wait, no, you said Rams and Seahawks.
Oh, okay. Rams. The Seahawks will beat the Rams, although it will probably be close. And the Seahawks will win in the Super Bowl against Denver. How often do the two one seeds actually make the Super Bowl?
I have no idea. It's. I think the Eagles and the Chiefs played each other every year that they were the one seeds, or every year they made the playoff or the Super Bowl, they were the one seeds. So pretty common, but not always the case.
Yeah. I hate saying that, but I just feel like the Denver Broncos and the Seahawks have proved that they're in a league of their own compared to the other teams this season.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
But like I said, I think there's a lot of sneaky teams this year. I would not be surprised if the Rams or the 49ers make a deep playoff run and upset the Seahawks. I would not be surprised if the Bills make a deep run or the, Steelers or something.
No, Steelers are always first round exits.
But they haven't had Aaron Rodgers yet.
Well, I've talked to some Steelers fans. They already are predicting first round exits. So
I
even their
love the
fans have no
confidence.
hope. Even their
I
fans have no hope.
love the confidence, guys. Keep it up. All right, now we're going to move on to the NBA. First of all, Russell Westbrook passes Oscar Robertson to become the NBA's highest scoring point guard of all time. Among point guards, he is first in points, rebounds, field goals made, third in blocks, sixth in assists, and seventh in steals. He will definitely go down in history.
I hope so. He's got like first triple doubles.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that he's never gotten a ring.
Yeah, he might go down as one of the best players to not win a ring.
Speaking of best players to never win a ring, LeBron passes Chris Paul for
Oh,
You see where I'm going with this. LeBron passes Chris Paul for second most assists in NBA history. I didn't even know that Chris Paul was in second, but I guess it makes sense.
well, we had that streak of like what, not having an assist in every game for like the majority of his career.
That doesn't sound that hard.
I don't remember what the stat was, but he had some kind of stat where he uh, had multiple assists or something in a game.
Yeah, well, just speaks to LeBron's longevity.
Rick Carlisle has been stuck at 999 career wins since December 8th of 2025, a whole year. Uh,
Okay.
That joke's kind of old. The Pacers are currently on a 13-game losing streak, so it sucks that he can't get over that hump and win that 1,000th game.
That joke was so last year. Julian Champagne scores a Spurs franchise record of 11 threes in a win over the Knicks. I've never heard of him, but he's one of those guys that maybe you should look out for in the future if the Spurs continue to do well.
Trey Young and his agent are working with the Hawks for a trade. He said his ideal team is the Washington Wizards.
What?
When I read it, it didn't make sense to me because I saw on Tuesday he was wanting a trade, and then Wednesday he said, "Yeah, I want to go to the Wizards."
So he wants to go from a team that consistently has exactly 50-50 wins to a team that is consistently bad.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe he wants to carry the team.
Then that begs the question, why isn't he carried his
Why isn't he
current team?
carrying the Hawks?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's probably a great place to work. I've been there. I've seen the outside of the stadium. And
Yeah, I have too.
it looked nice.
I remember John Wall being on the side of the stadium when we went.
Yeah, I remember that as well.
And
But
Bradley Beal.
yeah, I don't know. It's long overdue that he's getting traded, I suppose. Although I've always kind of thought he's not the best player, like people say he is. Like he likes to take a lot of deep shots that he doesn't hit very consistently. So I think he shoots like less than 30% when he takes super deep threes, which just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why do that? In other news, Jaylen Brown scored 50 points against the Clippers, snapping the Clippers' 6-game win streak.
Yeah, they're really looking like they can make a push back into the playoff uh, talk, but I'm surprised the Clippers are doing so bad this season. They got Kawhi and James Harden, and there's
Setting
really no
franchise
reason.
records.
Yeah, there's really no reason for them to be doing so bad.
I really don't know much about their bench. I mean, maybe that's why.
Wardell Stephen Curry scored 20 points in the third quarter against the Jazz.
Get this man some help.
I don't remember if they won that game. I think they did.
They probably did, but my statement still stands.
He only scored 31 points in that game, so it's not like he went off for like a 50 piece. So they're still able to win with 31 points by him. So hopefully they can. I believe Steve Kerr also got ejected that game, and so did Draymond.
And Snoop Dogg commented on the ejection. It's probably, I don't know why he was on the mic, but he was. In other
La la la
news,
la la.
the Thunder are still kind of having a bad streak. It seems like every other game now they're losing. Except this time, it's slightly different. The Hornets blew out the Thunder by 27 points, making the Thunder's record now 30-7. They started 24-1, mind you. For reference, the Hornets' record is 13-23. So definitely not a team that you would expect to upset the Thunder.
As we are recording, they are beating the Jazz 58 to 53. The Thunder are beating the Jazz 58 to 53.
Okay. I don't really get what their downfall is. It must be in their head somewhat after the Spurs losses.
I did see some people saying, watch out for them to pull the trigger and go and get Giannis before the trade deadline.
You're gonna have to give up a lot.
Well, they got all those draft picks.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. One thing I want to know about that game between the Hornets and the Thunder is the Thunder shot 36.6% from field goal for the field goal percentage, while the Hornets shot 53.2. The Thunder also had a 28.2% three-point percentage versus 51.4, a free throw percentage of 66.7 versus 92%, and 40 defensive rebounds for the Hornets versus the Thunder's 20. Here's the crazy thing, though. The Hornets had 21 turnovers to the Thunder's 7, and they had 29 turnover points off turnovers versus the Hornets' 8 points off turnover. And yet they still lost.
And got blown out in their loss.
Kind of just goes to show that if you hit 50% from 3-point, you can win games. I mean, they hit 8 more threes than Thunder. So that is 24 points right there.
Correct. And they won by 27. So that's good, good, good. Moving on to injuries. Jonas Valanciunas on the Nuggets will be reevaluated in 3 weeks after sustaining a right calf strain.
Also, I'm not sure if we covered this last week or if this is an update, but the Spurs' Victor Wembanyama suffered a slight hyperextension in his left knee, and the initial test came back as negative, showing no major injuries, so that's good news.
Clippers' Derrick Jones Jr. has been diagnosed with a grade 2 right MCL sprain and will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. He just returned last week after missing over a month from the same injury on the same knee against the same opponent, which was the Celtics.
Seems like he probably came back too soon.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
And lastly, LeBron James is out with left foot joint arthritis. He's getting old, he's getting arthritis.
I did see a funny video of him with like a reporter. The reporter was like, "Oh, how you gonna play the rest of the season or something on back-to-back games?" He's like, "Well, I am 41 years old and I'm getting old." And he's like, and the reporter goes, "Well, you don't look old." And he said, "Well, I'm 41 years old. You want to see my birth certificate?"
Okay.
So yeah, LeBron's getting old. And he said he probably won't be playing many back-to-back games, which will eliminate him from awards, unfortunately.
The second round of All-Star returns came out Tuesday. For the East, starting from first going to 20th, we have Giannis, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Cade Cunningham, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brown, Karl Anthony Town, Jalen Johnson, Michael Porter Jr., Pascal Siakam, Brandon Ingram, LaMelo Ball, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Joel Embiid, Norman Powell, Josh Giddey, and Franz Wagner.
For the West returns, starting from 1st to 20th, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Stephen Curry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Denny Avdija, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun, Austin Reeves, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, Jamal Murray, Cooper Flagg, Devin Booker, Laurie Markkinen, Jimmy Butler III, and Stephen Castile.
It's cool to see Cooper Flag on there.
I believe he's the only rookie.
Probably. And lastly, moving on to our miscellaneous section. Number 10 Nebraska men's basketball team improves to 15-0 after an upset to number 9 Michigan a couple weeks ago. They also had a narrow win against Ohio State.
Number 2 Michigan beat number 24 USC 66 to 96, and they're currently 14-0. So something that is worth noting about this game is both teams made 11 three-pointers combined on 53 three-pointers attempted. So Michigan had 6 for 30 and USC had 5 for 23 with a 21% and a 20%. So maybe three-pointers aren't always the way to go.
Yeah, that means that out of their 31 versus 20 field goals, to have a win by that margin, it must have been a ton of two-pointers, right?
Well, that would be 22 more points right there just on two-pointers.
Yeah. They only had one more three. Kind of crazy. You wouldn't think a blowout by that margin would be one more three-pointer. Next, we have Texas Tech's women's basketball team signing a 7-footer Stephanie Okachukwu is now the tallest player in NCAA women's basketball history. I have no clue if she's good or what, but that is crazy for a woman to be 7 foot tall.
And to be that athletic to be a Division 1 basketball player.
To be fair, if you're a 7 foot tall woman, I don't think you have to be that athletic. I feel like you just throw it up high and you're gonna be way above anyone. I think the average height in women is what, 5'6" or something like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So that's cool. I hope we learn more about her if she plays and stuff.
Purdue guard Braden Smith passes Michigan State's Cassius Winston for the all-time assist leader in the Big Ten, who had 890 assists. He is currently tied for 18th all-time, and the NCAA Division I record is held by Duke's Bobby Hurley, who had 1,076 assists.
And lastly, we just want to make one announcement that starting this Sunday, the 11th through the 26th of January, there is the January Sumo tournament going on. And Nick said that he was going to watch it because after our underrated sports episode, he was kind of interested in it. So, starting next week, we will be covering it every week until it's over. Also, with college football ending soon, we need suggestions on what we should cover to replace that. We could do sumo, however, there's only tournaments every 2 months, so unless we want to cover predictive stuff or injuries in the middle months, I guess I don't know what it would be called, like the non-tournament months, I guess. Uh, we'd kind of have to do something else. So let us know.
We could probably start talking about college basketball since March Madness would be right around the corner.
That's true. We're definitely going to talk about it when March Madness happens, so look forward to that. Um, but yeah, I hope you guys come into next week with an open mind, and we're gonna try our best to not just throw out names without any context. So if it's a sumo that's, a rising star, we will point that out, and I look forward to seeing Nick's thoughts. Are you looking forward to the tournament, Nick?
Yeah, I've never watched a sumo tournament, so I'm excited to see what it's about and if there's going to be any underdogs, like
You know,
some lower class beating the bigger guys.
I was talking to one of my roommates about this yesterday, and even he wants to watch the tournament with me now. So yeah, there's a lot of hype in my immediate friend group around this tournament. I will say, last year had a lot of eventful things, such as like the top the top ranked guy retiring mid tournament. I don't think that's ever happened. We had a Ukrainian born guy reach the highest rank of a Ukrainian born sumo, and he's also highly projected to do well this tournament. He could even win it, which would make him winning the tournament back to back, which would give him even more of an argument to eventually become ranked the highest rank in sumo. So that's something to look out for. And then we have a couple people in the current tournament who are like, actually, it might even only be one guy, but I think he's like over 40 years old, who's still competing at a pretty decent level. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I expect could happen in this tournament.
One more update, unless you don't want to include it. We're hoping and aiming towards February to have our first special guest.
Yes, we think we have that lined up, but it's always good to have other options, and we can always include you later. So if you want to be a special guest, let us know in the comments, and we will reach out to you if we want to include you. Also, it would be helpful if you can tell us why you want to be a special guest. For example, if you have extensive knowledge on a very specific sport that we probably don't know, such as ping pong, hockey, etc., let us know.
Well, that's all we have for you guys. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.